The Substance is directed by Corley Forgiat and stars Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley, Dennis Quaid, and among others. And in this story, it deals with a former TV aerobics star played by Demi Moore who ends up getting fired on her 50th birthday and ends up discovering that there's a way that she can basically make herself appear a lot more younger and stuff by taking this drug that essentially makes her turn into a younger version of herself. And if you've seen from the trailers, there's some stuff that goes on in the film that I can't really go into much detail with because there's a lot of spoilers in this. But let's just say it leads to some stuff that deals with some pretty serious side effects. And I'll leave it there because there's a lot of stuff in this that really goes balls to the wall insane. Now, here's a little backstory. Now, this movie was directed by Corley Forgiat, and I'm sorry if I can't get her name right. She also directed a film back in 2017 called Revenge, which I heard was pretty good, which I haven't seen, but I heard it was really good. And so it's interesting how she went on to do a film like this and something like this. And going to this one, it got me really interested because I really love these type of kind of like body type of horror films that we see, you know, like with movies like The Fly from David Cronenberg, or even some other David Cronenberg stuff that he had in the past, and everything. And so it just always makes me kind of wonder like what they do with these kind of genres because we rarely ever see them anymore. In fact, what's crazy is we actually the last couple of years alone we've been seeing David Cronenberg's son Brandon Cronenberg actually made a couple of films that was very that was dealing with like these kind of body type of horror movies like Possessor and Infinity Pool last year. And so there's some pretty interesting there's some really far out stuff that they deal with these kind of movies, and it definitely has kind of a very type of niche market when it comes to releasing these in theaters. And so what I got from the trailers, it got me really interested, especially seeing Demi Moore back on a big movie again like this because I haven't really seen her in anything in such forever as far as movie wise. I know that she's done like other TV work lately over the years, but as far as like movies that are really big that go to theaters and stuff, it's really rare that we ever see her these days. And it's a shame because I've always enjoyed Demi Moore as an actress, and she always is great in her own right with a lot of stuff that she's done in the past, especially with her performances and stuff like Ghost and G.I. Jane and just everything that she's done. And her last big one that I believe that was at least that I can remember that went to theaters that was pretty big was Mr. Brooks a long time, about 15 years ago. But I remember really enjoying her that. So it's great to see that she's really made kind of a name, come back with a movie like this. And so after upon seeing the film, I can say that, wow, this movie was quite a wild ride. And I mean that in a really good and I mean that in a good way because this movie goes balls to the wall at the most gruesome that I've seen probably in a while when it comes to these kind of movies. Like, I mean, if you're talking about movies that really feel that very unease feeling and that kind of feeling where you're just really like very gross out kind of stuff, this probably won't appeal to everybody. But if you're into movies that deal with like the very macabre, the very kind of like just in disgusting type of stuff that you can think of when it comes to body type of horror, this is definitely one for the books. And to get my pros out of the way, I thought the cast in this were great. Demi Moore, I'm so glad that she took a role like this because she knocked it out of the park with not only on the stuff that she goes for and with her trying to, you know, lead her life of trying to want to be beautiful again and stuff. And you know, she also has some really funny moments that take place in this because the movie does kind of have satirical feel about how we deal with basically like falling stars and stuff like that in Hollywood and things like that because this is also in Los Angeles. And it deals with a lot with that kind of theme going throughout. And I won't reveal, but it also has a really big payoff at the end that I think really works in that level. And it's also categorized by the color of yellow in this throughout the movie as well. And just the way that Demi Moore just portrays, like, goes of it. Not only does she really, you know, command her role in her own rights, but also the way that she, the body and physical transformation that she goes in this as well is also really captivating. And a lot of the stuff you see, it goes beyond what we see in the trailers. So she was great, and Margaret Qualley, of course, what can I say? She's really great in her as well. And ever since I've seen her in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, she's really come as a really great actress in her own right. And I'm glad to see her that she's getting more roles and stuff. I'm glad to see that she's really, you know, making a name for herself and doing more roles like this and other stuff that I've seen her in. And she was phenomenal as the younger version. That's basically like more like egomaniacal, wanting to, you know, continue and trying to get the fame and stuff that her older self pretty much didn't have. And it deals with a lot of that kind of basically jealousy of the person's self, because the whole movie is all about being as one. And it's just funny the way that Demi Moore's character is like the way that she gets like pissed off at her younger self, even though it's her. Even though it's just her all to begin, even though it's her on the inside, it's just really funny the way it plays out. But the biggest scene still, the most, is definitely Dennis Quaid. Now, I've really enjoyed Dennis Quaid in a lot of other movies he's in, and I remember when I saw him in that movie The Intruder a few years ago that, he was definitely knocking out of the park with just, chewing up scenery and stuff. But here, he really goes for it, just being on that very kind of, like, crazy guy that just, he's eating shrimp a lot, he's very flamboyant and stuff, and he definitely goes for it. Like, he's just such a hoot to watch in this, and he really cracks me up in parts. And then one of the other biggest things I gotta really appreciate the most is definitely the effects they do in this. Not only were really great and practical. I'm gonna leave it as spoilers, but you've seen some of the movies that David Lynch has done, or even what David Cronenberg's done. There's definitely elements of that, and there's even also some Stanley Kubrick elements of The Shining in there too, as well, which I thought was really nice. And just the musical score was very the musical score was very great. It had that very kind of 80s type of sound to it and stuff. And just the cinematography and everything. And just also the sound editing I got to really appreciate too, because there's moments where, like, when you see Demi Moore basically turn into her younger self and stuff, it does this thing where pretty much like she's basically not hearing anything at first, and it's all muffled. And I thought that was really great with the sound mixing and stuff like that. The way that the sound mixing worked. So that was great. And there's more I can go into detail, but that's really the gist of it, because I really don't really have much flaws with this movie. I thought this movie was just out of this world great, and it's definitely an instant classic in my opinion. I think this would definitely go as an instant classic. And so with that, I'm going to give the movie a phenomenal grade on the Film Freaks smear, and this will definitely be on my best of list of the year. And for those of you who have also seen The Substance, let me know in the comments of what you thought about it, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next review. I'll see you later.